The regular meeting will be recorded and uploaded to our district website. The definitive documentation and decisions of the board are documented in the meeting minutes. Any use of an electronic device such as a computer or cell phone by trustees is related to the business of the meeting. The core values that guide the work of the school district are respect, compassion, honesty, responsibility, and relationships. We'll call the May 21st, 2024 meeting to order at 5:31. I'd like to acknowledge that today's board meeting is being held within the traditional territory of the Deneysah and Treaty 8. I get a mover and a seconder for the agenda, please. Moved by Bill, seconded by Thomas. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? We don't have a presentation or a delegation tonight, so we'll move on to trustee engagement and celebrations. And Ida sends regrets tonight, and Nicole sends regrets, so we'll start with Vice Chairman.
I did attend the public budget presentation. Not a good turnout, but attended Clearview PAC. Some of the issues that had been coming at EPAC did not materialize at the PAC level. And went up to 101 to see the presentation with the architect.
Thank you. Trustee Scott Moncrief.
Sorry, I wasn't able to get up to 101 to see it. I was very interested in that. My computer decided to fail. So I'm going to go off memory. I was out at Presbyterian for their PAC. Almost made it there twice because they canceled and didn't tell me. So I just happened to be on the right road, just making sure. But anyway, it was all done all right. Very active school. Really. That went up to Upper Pine a couple of times. I just dropped in and say hello. Dropped in to see Belle Donald for a minute. I was on that out that way. Did a little public speaking up at the high school. Really enjoyed. I can't wait to do some more of it. About it.
Trustee Snow.
I've had several talks with Todd in the past month. Come down to the ELC, took a walk around Glory. Gurney and Ambrose, been there several times the past month for chats. Been a couple of the rugby games, some of the badminton tournament. We had a North Star meeting. Bounce around.
Yeah, I have talked to all of my schools.
We'll move on to Trustee Wynn.
I was at the Central PAC. After that, I was supposed to be doing a speech contest this past Tuesday. Unfortunately, there was other ideas and I ended up handling a wildfire situation. I did get to see quite a few of our staff members at the trauma conference about 2 weeks ago. Well attended, lots of good feedback, lots of really good lessons there. As well as I got to see more of our staff at the Indigenous NID Day 2 Fridays ago, where we had 100 teachers out at Doig River to teach them about Doig culture and history.
I wondered how that. All right. So I'm doing Ready, Set, Learns, and I got to Belle Donald's garage sale. They're working on raising money for replacement of the playground we took out. Done some strat plan work and attended DPAC. I got to help at the badminton tournament, and I watched Belle Donald's Treasure Island play, which was really nice. The kids were very excited to be at the theater doing it. And they did get to the Dr. Kearney's Adams family presentation, and they were very much engaged and having fun with what they were doing, which was nice to see. Labor management, and I was at the meeting for 101 with the architect and had a nice visit with people at public budget consultation, even though there wasn't very much public there. So lots going on.
I missed one fun thing I did. Went out to Blueberry for the day,
Oh, okay.
for the NID day.
And I did it. Good.
It was also very nice that people were talking about their experience just going up there on the bus. And seeing what, understanding a lot more, people were saying. That was really nice to hear.
They only got about half the ride. Do you imagine if you stopped every 5 minutes along?
Oh, no, exactly. Exactly. They were reminded of that too.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on to item number 5 on our agenda, which is the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 22nd, which is pages 6 to 14 in your package.
While everybody's looking through that, I forgot to mention that I also spoke at the Heritage BC conference in Nelson this past month, talking about technology and language revitalization.
Can I get a mover? Moved by David, moved by Thomas. Any errors or omissions? One question then, all in favor? Okay, business arising from the minutes. Most of it was diarizing of things. Any business arising? We'll move on to agenda item number 6, approval of the excerpt of the in-camera board meeting of March 22nd, which is page 15 in your package. Motion and seconded, first moved by David, seconded by Madeline. Any errors or omissions? On question then, all in favor? Looking at our announcements and reminders, they're falling into the busy season.
Joint Days, for obvious reasons, was postponed.
Yeah.
And so the date is June the 6th.
Okay.
Was the alternate date, so hoping I could go ahead.
Any other additions to the announcements and reminders section?
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
on that same day, June 21st, we will also be having groundbreaking for Nache Commons. But everybody is welcome to come over. Join us, of course.
The groundbreaking for what?
For Nache Commons, right across from Montgomery School.
In the morning?
I don't know the specific time for it at the exact moment, but I will forward it on as more details become available.
Moving on then to senior staff report, the superintendent's report.
Thank you. And item number one is our activity report. And then there's my online report, which I'll go through now. First item under intellectual development, just keeping trustees up to date on what seems to be a bit of a growing tool called the learning pathways that the ministry is using around gathering some resources and strategies. It's not very deep yet in terms of its usefulness and examples, but I believe they continue to add on more. For example, the learning progressions, in my opinion, are still quite vague as far as from year to year, not a lot that discerns them, but they do continue to add resources on there and they keep referring to it. So I feel like it's going to be a resource that could become quite important. Under human and social development, we are grateful to the DPAC for organizing and paying for the dynamic influence assemblies. There were sort of mixed reviews as far as a lot of the information, some of the kids said they'd already heard before, but it never hurts to remind everyone of some of those key safety aspects around digital safety and especially around social media. But I did attend one of his presentations and it was good information and consistent with our own peers. Under careers and skill development, you can look up some further information around Skills Canada Inspire program. Monica Conway, our local employee, was involved in facilitating that in her own district. And so there's some information here on that. Under operations, May 6th to 10th was National Mental Health Week. And not only are there resources for students and families, but in this particular context for staff. And so there's a fair number of resources around adult wellness as well that we encourage, and we've shared this information with all of our employees as well. And I think some of you have seen supporting the operations of Fort Nelson School District. So today their Secretary Treasurer joined the team in here. So we essentially, they've decamped their operations to SD60 up in room 100. And we've been able to support them while they ensure all their employees are paid. And they're able to maintain connections with their families. We've provided means for them to support their families financially on a temporary basis. And from my understanding, things are looking to improve. I don't have any information on the dates, but it looks like the emergency services are starting to talk about setting up the capacity of the town again for people to come back, hopefully in the near future. For Doig River, as soon as it was in contact with Trustee Whitten and the schools that day, of course, ensured that the students they had a plan as far as getting home and where they were going. And then subsequent to that, the schools reached out to the families to check in on. Many of the families, I think Trustee Whitten will also use the opportunity, if you call it that, to also do some of their traveling and visit families and go to other locations too. Under Truth and Reconciliation, and by the way, the main topic of my June report will be the Indigenous Day visits where all of our staff went into community, but we just don't have all of the pictures and information back for that yet. However, I did get to go down and see many of our students, including Indigenous students, and this, by the way, this was spearheaded by an Indigenous fire training organization. And many of our students were able to take part in a very intense 2 days of training, and they were absolutely having a blast when I was down there. And so it was neat to see that in action. And really, I think sowing the seeds from a career exploration perspective for our students. Also, when I was down in ministry meetings here for JCAM and Deputy Minister, they had a couple of really helpful slides I found in terms of some of those key dates around whether they're legal ones or events in terms of our responsibilities and desire to create conditions for success for our Indigenous students. So it was nice to kind of see all those dates in one place. It gives us some perspective of what's been happening. There will be further information to come on Bill 40, so there's nothing new to report to you right now, but there will be the terms of reference for the Indigenous Education Council. There's still some pieces they're working out in terms of the weighting of the votes and those kinds of things that we're expecting clarification on soon. And finally, under take 3, you can see some examples of some great things happening around the district. North Peace secondary students heading to Dawson Creek to the aircraft hangar there. 60 students, I think, went there. Trustee Helen has mentioned Treasure Island, and there's lots of pictures here from Baldonnel. And then Hudson's Hope was hosting BC hydroelectrical safety activities there. So neat things to check out. Item number 2 is an information letter. It's to congratulate our schools and raising money for the Terry Fox Foundation, and Thurlows raised the most among our schools. I would ask the trustees to break out items 3, 4, and 5 for motions to pass school charges out of different field trips and PA courses. That's my report.
Did we miss Ventures in Healthcare?
Sorry?
Ventures in Healthcare was.
Yes, we have that later on.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't fit everything in.
All right, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm pretty passionate about that.
I know. That was just recently, right? So when we get.
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
That was my report.
All right, please get a mover and seconder for Stephen's report. Moved by Bill, seconded by Thomas. We have some items that will resolutions. We'll move to discussion, going through the report item by item. The first thing is Human Resources Summary Report. 17 new assignments. Good. Any questions there? Right, moving on then.
Stephen, Bill.
Bill?
Yes. How vast this kind of project, work with 17 new assignments are hopefully many of them like new people.
Most,
Or they
actually,
just jump from
most
job
of
to job.
those at this point are ones renewing their contract.
Renewing.
Yeah.
Are we expecting, sorry, am I good to ask a question? Yeah. Are we expecting a large shortfall with all the retirements and everything that we're having coming into September? Or are we pretty well?
Nothing outside of the ordinary that's go, but I want to feel like to knock on wood as far as on the teaching side of things, our rural schools are looking much better than they have in the last few years in terms of positions offered and taken. So nothing out of the ordinary in terms of the number of those retirements and cautiously optimistic, right?
Cautiously optimistic.
Love how you stickle handle that one.
I'm pretty excited about rural. If they stay and actually show up, we'll be very pleased.
Right, moving on to the electronic report. Any questions related to learning pathways?
So the dynamic data one, just a quick question. So Stephen, you had attended one?
Yeah, verbose.
Cause that is kind of, that was kind of the DPAC trial, whatever, right?
Yes.
And I know it came up at the PAC and wondered if that was worthwhile or not, but overall you would say.
Yeah, overall, thanks for the question. I would say that it never hurts for those good reminders. And the slides that he used, some of the feedback was, for example, they could have, interestingly enough, for the title of dynamic influence, I think they could have been a bit more dynamic. The slides and maybe some more video or it was more around the engagement pieces. The message and the consistency and the content were excellent. It was more about engaging the students in the presentation.
I've seen 2 of them. And the response was completely different from one to the next. Kind of thing.
Very
Middle school students, some of them were like, we've seen this before, and a whole lot of them he just didn't have them engaged. But I went to Ann Roberts. They were much more engaged. Like I could, at Kearney, I could barely hear them.
Right.
I think it was just a constant hum all the time. That's,
Yeah, so mixed. It's always good to try some, though,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
to have the DPAC working on educational pieces supporting the district was, that's kind of a big thing to celebrate as well.
definitely a major issue.
Bill's Canada and Fire Program. Jar, questions there? Thank you for the support of the Fort Nelson School District. Really important. We are supporting as much as possible. It was nice to see how many schools opened up their gym. I think we were all hoping that heading home would happen a little bit earlier, but.
Yeah.
It is. Nice to hear tonight that Lloyd is back home.
I'd like to touch on the finesse part.
Sure.
Right. I think that's fantastic. Finesse was actually out there helping Dwight fight the fire, so I'm really glad that they were able to come together. We worked with Finesse on several things, our EOC operations. So really exciting to see them getting into the school and showing them kind of stuff that they may or may not deal with in the future.
Yeah, it was new to me, so this is good learning.
I love an acronym, SNF.
Yeah, yeah.
Moving on then to the Terry Fox letter that was provided in your packet just for information. Comments there. Up to schools whether they participate or not. Could I please get a motion that the Board of Education accept the school charges as presented, moved by David, seconded by Thomas? Discussion.
That's an impressive number.
I was actually, I didn't get it done, going to compare. When you looked at this, do you have any idea of how many schools are finding the need to increase? I didn't go back and compare to last year's.
Yeah, I mean, we can take a look at that, but nothing kind of jumped line, but it's something we can look at, right?
I looked through them. Yeah, there was minimal increase. Yeah.
And I know from some of the discussion that did happen at the DPAC, that there are some schools that are moving away from doing supplies because they're ending up so much unpaid.
That's unfortunate, because I think this is like when I look at the numbers, I think as a parent, to me, they seem reasonable, very reasonable.
I apologize, we agree with you. I was still on the Terry Fox thing.
The,
Oh, yeah, sorry, we're looking at the charges.
Motion, the school charges just can't.
Any further questions, discussions related to that? Then calling the questions on school charges for 24-25. All in favor? Agreed. Looking at our out-of-district field trips, and it was exciting. Most of them are not sports related. And that's not to say that sports aren't near and dear to my heart, but it was quite neat to see the number that not. So can I please get a motion that the Board of Education accept the out-of-district field trips as presented? Moved by Madeline, seconded by David. Discussion?
That's something.
Yep.
Both the student representatives and some staff for both the robotics team and the EV challenge team will be here for the June board meeting. And while media is here, I just wanted to say that that is June the 17th. And I am inviting trustees to come a little earlier, if possible, that evening to maybe try out the cars. They're going to bring the cars here. So we'll have some students as part of that delegation or presentation, but there'll also be an opportunity to see some of it in action. Thank you.
I'm just curious, what is the EV challenge?
It's, there were a few schools that participated building the actual EV car with the kit, but not knowing everything about it with the teacher sponsor. And so these, you can actually sit in them. And they're taking them down to Merritt. I think it's Merritt, isn't it? Yeah. Merritt with Will McComb and Ian Sakotnik is the shop teacher at the high school. So a bit of an North Peace Trusted Student collaboration on it. And we'll find out more about it.
Calling the question then, all in favor? And we have some BAA courses. Can I please follow a motion that the Board of Education accept the BAA courses as presented? By Madeline. Seconded by Wallace. Discussion. Quite exciting.
Matches, I mean, it is obviously the through North Peace, but the ELC, is that mainly where we're looking at it for this course, or is
For
it
which
for
one?
both campuses for the athletic leadership and sports?
Come through as a North Peace course, so I'm not exactly
Sure, which campus?
Yeah. Because they don't distinguish between one course thing, sorry, but I can find that out.
Well, see, it's Selena's at the.
Oh,
development, so
Selena's
that would
under
be
the
kind of
ELC.
would be the ELC, definitely.
Movement in mind. Just. And was Project Heavy Duty a BAA course before? I know students have been able to receive credits for it, but the only way they could receive credits for that is to have this done?
That's correct, and there was always a version of it. They hadn't always signed up when we resurrected the program.
Mhm.
The first year, I don't think they got the credits for it or signed up for it. This time we did, because of course we get funding, so we've also taken the opportunity to revise that BAA course. And so with Jared Bell and Jeff Mayer, they've kind of reviewed everything and put it forward. And this will be the plan moving forward. Each time they will sign up not only to get the credits, but the funding for it.
Any other questions related to the three BAA courses that we have in front of us? All right, calling the question in. All in favor? I believe that should be everything that is submitted to. Moving on to the Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Helen. So for my report, I have the finance update to April 30th. I'm asking for a motion for the 2024-25 minor capital plan around childcare. And then I have a human resource support staff summary for the period April 18th to May. And that is my
Seconder for Angela's report, and then we'll go through item by item, moved by David, seconded by Madeline. We'll start with discussion of the updated operating financial report. I'd like to see expenses lower than anticipated. The fact that our grants aren't quite as what you anticipated, I went, oh, I don't like that. Lower than expected.
right. And that is just timing. So we just did so the February funding, we just saw the updated operating tables recently. So that doesn't necessarily correspond to them rolling the funding out yet. The funding is definitely.
So it's not, it's not the final word, so to speak, on it.
Not the final word for sure. And it doesn't get distributed evenly throughout the years.
Right.
It says Alberta students, DL third-party billing agent. Is that what we get for like the ones that go to Clearview there?
Yeah. So the Alberta, yeah, that funding we finished that back in November.
Yeah, because I remember he had the issue with some of the money.
We did receive the transportation.
This number hasn't changed from the last snapshot.
So I'm just curious why it's 100% if we didn't receive.
Because we've received everything. So what I budgeted for was
Not getting
61, but we're not getting any more, so it just is the 61,000.
It's just that all the money that's coming is there, whether that covers everything or not.
Yeah.
Is that reflective of what we would receive per BC student? That's significantly less.
It's not significantly less, but it's slightly less. I can get you the exact number.
It popped around your mind next time. Just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Right. The next item within Angel's report was the 2024-2025 minor capital plan childcare attachment. And I need a motion that the 2024-2025 major capital plan childcare new spaces resolution be approved as presented.
So I'm happy to speak to what we've asked for.
You can move on to Central first. No, I don't. Because I don't, no, I
No,
do,
because
because
you're
it's a
gonna-
motion.
Yes.
We're
Okay.
discussing the motion. And it would be
Okay,
nice to have
then
them speak
discussion.
to Madeline. Moved. Seconded by Bill. Bill, now we get to discuss. Okay. We're not fine.
So initially, the capital funding for childcare was done through New Spaces Fund. And now, as it is part of the ministry's umbrella, it's moved to the MyVMAP system, which is how we submit proposals. So what we've asked for is an additional portable at Robert Ogilvie, which will give us, but it will increase capacity by, I believe, 16 for infants toddler, and then the rest are 3 to 5, and then for 1 to 3 kind of ages. And then looking to collaborate with the integration funding, in the budget, you'll see that I've proposed $1.5 million out of that funding in addition to this 1.486 to create a childcare hub at Allen Holland Elementary School. So that would be for 37 spaces for 0 to 5 years old.
So
Like two portables or?
No, it would be a stick build, new construction. Well, we're learning now, so we may as well keep building, I guess.
So those two, so the portable at Robert Ogilvie and this, is there any thought to take, I mean, my guess is it goes out on, not on playground, but obviously it's gonna be area surface. Are we attaching at Allen Holland just to minimize that, or?
At Elwyn Holland, the suggested spot is behind the gym, but I'm not, that was the submission, so that is what the goal is, but again, we still have time to get it situated where it best serves the needs of the school and
So I just want to clarify, we're applying for 1.4. We're matching it also, so it's almost a $3 million.
yeah, and in this spot, which the doesn't fall under this, would be the additional meeting spaces. So there would be a large meeting area in there that would serve, for just for parents to come together for educational pieces, and there would be meetings, like it's an additional meeting space for the district, and we have an ever-growing early learning group as well. So, and then office for early learning. So the ministry doesn't fund those pieces. So with the integration money, they wanted us to create like a hub, a childcare hub. So that's what we're proposing, would be childcare as well as the additional meeting spaces for the community to come together. So, and then the office.
So then to your question, Helen, it's not that the district is putting in the other half, we're just accessing a different funding.
But I guess there's still a piece in me that's saying, we're adding, and we're going to run out of this integration fund. It's only there for 3 years. And we're adding costs that will become the district's costs when you start to add a facility, because it's custodian, it's cleaning, it's all of those other things. And I still am working at wrapping my head around the long-term implication, funding-wise, for everything that we're adding. I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that there isn't a need. But when we look at our funding for students, it's very based on behinds in seats. We know kind of how they're going to do it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how they're going to do this.
Would there not be an agreement in place with, say, the YMCA or the other organizations that take on these spaces to have those costs recouped though, so that the board is not wearing those costs on a long-term basis?
Perhaps with the Y, but this is going to be our hub. That's not, there's no other provider for that. And should the YMCA not want to continue with those operating some of the facilities that we've got going on for early childhood, the need's not gone away. It will come back to us as a district.
I think what Helen's speaking to is there is, like, for example, the AFG that we have to cover building issues. That's not supposed to be for childcare at this point. Like, it's not to facilitate childcare. So they are looking at how they're going to fund the operations of these childcare spaces. That isn't going to come out of the per pupil funding. Now, we haven't heard what that is yet. But from what you're saying, the portables, yes, that would be cost recovery. This, for example, would be something that would come out of, we still have some integration dollars left to facilitate this, and they're not going to be taking it away. So we just have to be mindful of that budget and sharing the cost. And for this new, the Allen Holland one, as the childcare itself, we would be third party in that. We wouldn't be running the childcare.
It didn't say that in there, and at the back of my mind, 0 to 5, we have to have an early childhood educator doing this. And our before and after school daycares that we're doing so much with, we're doing that with existing staffing. And in talking to some of the private operators, ECE in town, getting certified staff, even though we've got the dual credit program going on at high school and things, is really hard. And you just can't serve that 0 to 5 population without those certified bodies.
Yes, we need it, but if we take, I'm not sure the exact number, if we take what's there now, you're saying 37 more. It's
Well, the before and after school care isn't going to move into this. We'll continue to run the before. And after.
Yes. But it's growing more and more to be a preschool, pre-primary school kind of thing. Like the population is,
Well, the care for those students wouldn't be specific to the surrounding community. It would be anyone in the community of St. John would bring students. Would bring the pre-student, like 0 to 5.
it's not, it just doesn't seem like it's much longer before the population of before or after school and all that's going to be like half of the school numbers kind of thing.
I'm not sure I quite
Like
understand.
that, those facilities are like taking over the school.
Well, this one is external to the school. So there shouldn't
It's
really,
an add-on.
it's an add-on. So there shouldn't be, you know, it would be like the YMCA does use the school gym after hours and things. Same with the before and after school care. But it is outside of the building. There'd be an attachment, like
You
access
still
to.
provide all the maintenance and everything.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But don't forget, it's now Ministry of Child Education and Childcare.
It is our mandate as well.
It's
So
about integration is what the.
It is our mandate, but we still don't have the funding formula review complete for our K to 12. And this is just building and building and building. I guess one of the questions that I wish I had asked Tracy last week is when we're starting to look at our preschool programs and our daycare programs, what are our costs in comparison to some of the private facilities? Because no matter what we add, we're still going to need private people. And do we give somebody like the YMCA a leg up if we're not doing enough cost recovery? So that whole alignment of things is stuff that I would like to understand better.
Especially if they're implementing it on daycare.
I mean, that is always recouped.
Is it?
That the provider, it's not that the provider only gets $10, it's a parent pays, but government.
the government would subsidize the $10.
Back to the school district,
Not to us, would be to the third party, whoever's running
or
the.
to the YMCA or whatever, okay.
So we appreciate as staff that this does, we hope it continues to be an important advocacy piece around not clarity, around clarity of what does it mean to be the Ministry of Education and Childcare, along with some of those administrative costs and cleaning, admin in general. I think they've been receptive to your questions, but we appreciate that this any clarity in funding to make this long-term and sustainable, we want as well.
So there is no presentation to Financial Standing Committee this year because of when it is. So I've kind of been collecting items that we might want a letter about. And we bring forward to the meeting. So that would be something else. Because at the back of my mind, we've had this whole pot of money to play with what we're doing with it, but it runs out.
It
It's
is run out.
it runs out,
Next year's the last year.
and next year is the last
And
year, and we've built a whole infrastructure around us.
Next year is the last year, but they still want us to provide it after next year.
Well, but we've protected the bulk of the fund, which was targeted towards some building the capacity of an early learning hub. In the meantime, we've been able to support, and by the way, I'll take the opportunity also around advocacy, around some of the inclusion needs when it comes to before and after school care, because that's not something that's really fully thought through or funded right now. We happen to have that capacity, and by the way, the finances, the way that Angela and her team has run it, is such that we do have it is more than paying for itself right now.
You'll get the update.
But that will not always be the case. So the advocacy piece continues to be important.
Right, any further discussion? Then calling the question, all in favor of the 2024-2025 finance plan. It's carried. Thank you. Moving on to Angela's Human Resources Support Staff Summary. Any questions there?
Sorry, it's gonna hold up.
Don't you have a question?
That's gonna hold up, right?
Questions about her? Okay.
Great. Thank you. We're going to move on to 9, area 9 of our agenda. We're looking at reports of the regular committee of the whole meeting of May 6th, which is page 18 to 19 in your agenda package. Can I get a mover and a seconder for those, please? Moved by Thomas. Thomas, were you here? Thomas and Bill?
I was via Zoom.
By Zoom, okay. We just lost track. Business arising. So Stephen sent something out later this afternoon about, I think it was later this afternoon. Let me check my email. It was there. As a follow-up concept, the trustees meeting schedules, please make sure you do get back to him with your thoughts related to what's been said. Further discussion before I call the question.
So Stephen, would you like for us to give you feedback, and no feedback means we're good with it, or?
Actually, even a comment to say that you think it'll work, and I'll bring all that back to the board in whatever way you want. For right now, it's just to read through it, think of the implications, and then say, okay, or here's some questions or concerns that I have.
Calling the question then, all in favor? Right, we're moving on to 9.3 policy committee, and the first thing that we're taking a look at is notice of motion for policy 2006, discrimination, assault, bullying, and harassment prevention, district school code of conduct.
That was the revision, which is in line with the board's policy, which is also going out here on the restrictions that we all know that were announced previously by the government on cell phone use in school.
When we first looked at this policy, we didn't have the ministry's direction and wording, and that big red chunk in there is the ministry's direction.
So when I look at this, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. My question is just, is this just kind of a double? Because when I look at policy 2014, that
Yeah.
on the docket here, that's quite deep. I mean, it's overlap. It obviously doesn't contradict. It's just another layer.
Yeah.
It just seems that this is a second, if, people will be asking, because that was one of the topics about the cell phone use.
Yeah.
It's essentially now 2 places where they can find.
Yeah, we won't be missing it. And part of it was due to 2 reasons. One, the sort of delay in getting that sort of guidance from the ministry and yet knowing the work had to be done in order to get ready for next year. And secondly, at the time, it was kind of the board's desire to put this into policy as per its right to do so around these restrictions. So it was kind of that lack of guidance, but also the board wanting to put its own stamp on this policy. So there's some redundancy there, but that's not a bad thing.
No. They're not contradictory.
And it just becomes that concept of responsible use just becomes part of, we expect it about everything, and that's kind of our everything policy when it comes to.
So it is a bit more of a compliance piece, Madeline, as well. So we're checking off some boxes, but it is meaningfully represented between the 2 of them.
So could I please have,
Got a couple of questions.
Says security and storage of personal internet connected devices, sole responsibility of the owner and user. I'm assuming that it would be school by school. If there was an escalation, put your phone away. Doesn't put his phone away. And then it just continues to go. The teacher will not be taking the personal device away from a student at that point then.
It's entirely possible, but again, the board and even senior staff don't get involved in the sort of the discipline and the consequences of students at the school level. That's entirely up to the school principal.
Oh, so you guys, I just want to make sure it's based on the school. They make the decision.
That's right. What you will see is, for example, Verbose and Dr. Kearney will be sending out a common letter, I believe, tomorrow or the next day, that does actually clarify what some of those expectations and consequences would be.
Can you see the letter by any chance?
Sure.
And if I'm reading this, because it does say it very clearly, it's a school, the consequences could possibly look different from that, let's say, out to a Clearview. Is that correct? So if I have parents say, but so this school does this and this, it's like, yeah, that's correct.
Actually, not only that, from student to student, for any discipline issue, whether it's cell phones or misbehaving. So this isn't a cell phone issue, this is a behavior and consequences question, which can not only be different from school to school, but it's actually can and sometimes needs to be different from student to student. Having said that, the middle schools and the high school are trying to approach this from the bigger picture consistently.
Bill and then Bill?
Because I had one other question that was brought up. Apart from what I think, but of course, we're always getting compared to other places, and we're getting compared to Ontario, where they banned all the popular platforms like Facebook, Snapchat, and all that, where the actually within the school that's banned.
Yeah. And sorry, say that again, like what's that?
Why are we not doing that?
Oh, yeah, no. Good question. I think, again, back to some advocacy and around who decides what. The province, I think, recently announced that they had come to some kind of agreement with the social media platforms. What that means, Madeline, I'm not exactly sure. But also to your question is around why can't we as a district just ban sort of certain or restrict certain apps? If a student has data, we have no control over that. So it really is about having these devices away, no matter what's on.
David? No, Bill, then David.
Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
It's more of an information thing, but I've had about a handful of middles, and upper school in town teachers kind of thing, high school, middle schools, bring up the past week, because they used to have policies in those schools about wearing your hoodies around school.
Right.
And they're thinking there's going to be a difficulty because the kids will put their hoodie over their head and throw the earbuds in. Kind of thing. So they're wondering if they're going to have to suggest to get rid of them again.
The schools are going to have to manage as again, this is a school-based
exactly.
follow-up. And just a gentle reminder that this isn't the first time that we've seen this policy or had this the opportunity to have this discussion.
I'm very lucky to have a couple of Europeans and a Brazilian. And they're surprised that we still allow phones in schools. They don't allow any at all. Don't even bring it up. We're way behind the curve on this.
As my mom would say, there's many a slip between the cup and the lip. And how this plays out in September, not only do I understand your questions, but via staff also. Which is why we're trying to be as communicative and front load this as quickly and as much as possible.
So could I please have someone make it known that a notice of motion will be issued for policy 2006 discrimination, assault, bullying, and harassment prevention district student.
Okay. Did I?
No, nobody has done it yet.
Nobody has. David. He thought he did, so he did.
Now you did.
Okay. Policy 2009 Student Conduct Committee was moved to go out for notice of motion by trustee Snow. Was there any public feedback on this motion? Okay. Could I please get a seconder then that the Board of Education adopt policy 2009 Student Conduct Committee? Seconded by Madeline. Calling the question. All in favor? Trustee indemnity. We did some modifications to that so that we didn't have to keep coming back to it, I believe. And David Scott Moncrief moved it last time. And I get a seconder Thomas Witten. Discussion? Any discussion before we call the question then? Calling the question, all in favor? Done. We're looking now at policy 4001. It was moved by Ida at our last meeting, Ida Campbell, that the Board of Education adopt policy 4001, acceptable internet use and digital citizenship. Did we get any feedback related to this policy? David, you're going to second it? Seconded then by David. Any discussion? Calling the question then, all in favor? All right. Moving on to policy 2014, restrictions on student use of personal internet connection devices. To open notice of motion by David, that the Board of Education policy 2014 restrictions on student use of personal internet connected devices. Any feedback on this one?
We did receive feedback, and it was, from my interpretation, it was around the procedures of how it would be implemented, not any changes to the policy. And policies generally we don't put procedures in there. We leave that to the schools to implement, very similarly to policy 2006. So that was the feedback received.
So are we going to get back to the people and suggest that if what they're asking questions about are procedural ones, that those should be dealt with it?
Yeah, that's definitely wrong.
As well as the communication from the schools themselves over the next couple of weeks. Question over here, John.
We're gonna monitor smartwatches.
Pardon?
How are we gonna monitor smartwatches?
The policy that you put forward means that they will not be able to have them.
It's gonna be an uphill battle.
Don't shoot me.
The entire purpose of the policy would be undermined. If all the things you can do on the phone you're wearing under.
100%. They can have SIM cards in them and everything.
And again, just a reminder, trustees, this is the province of British Columbia.
Yeah.
Not just SD 60.
There was a question that came from Michelle, did you get it as
That's the
well?
one, yeah.
And it was about not smartwatches, it was more about gaming things, I think, that you can wear on the wrist. And
So how the board is approaching this is the personal internet connected devices, which gives schools that latitude around those distracting pieces that for the purpose of the policy.
We're not describing the actual piece.
No, is that we could miss out on something.
yeah, no, I just was wanting to make sure that.
I just have one question though.
Mhm.
I wasn't here on the last one, but when I was reading it, the thing that surprises me a little bit, the actual policy. Because if I go back to, let's say, the discrimination one that we just passed, the policy is very clear, no, safe, welcoming, because that's the policy itself, not procedural, right? So I'm just a little bit surprised to see under the restrictions where they kind of explain and recognize the research. I agree with it. I totally agree with it.
Yes.
I'm just surprised that that's under that's the action policy. That's all. That's more of a,
And this is just to sort of align with kind of almost taken from the announcements of the provincial government around what the direction is on this. And so there's just some alignment pieces there, but I understand what you're saying.
so I understand this is the first time this is a big piece I think people have been reading for, so
Yeah.
it's maybe to be having it within the actual policy phrasing. That I'm just surprised about that it's within the policy. Because we tried to keep the policy as quick and as, right, we don't want to have a big,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't belong anywhere in here, I'm just surprised that it's under the policy head.
Yeah. It feels a little different, and it does come from them, the ministry basically asking that rationale is there. And by the way, having the board's policy come up now and approved means that we can move forward quickly on these pieces. So back to your original question around some of the redundancy, whereas the first one, policy 2006, will have to wait until June before we pass it.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were.
Well,
It's almost like the rationale within the actual
statements,
policy.
It's more to do with how the ministry has framed this.
No, like I said, it's a good place to be in there somewhere. I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just surprised to see the rationale within the actual policy. That's all.
I don't think it hurts to have rationale. And I don't think it becomes procedural that way either.
I think when we tried to step away from with the procedure. The rationale, and honestly, this one was so good too.
Question.
You're right, Thomas, smartwatches is in there.
Yeah, and I'm curious if there's gonna be like a list of these smartwatches you can't use, these you can, because I mean, some you can't interact with, but then you look at the Fitbits and you can't do much. They tell the time and they check your pulse. They make sure you have to be on your phone in order to.
Messages.
Some of them.
Going back to digital citizenship.
Well, here's the rule. Are you going to attempt to work your way around it, or are you going to honor the intent?
Some will
of it?
succeed. I mean, we're talking, this is more about what are we trying to do with the vast majority, and then dealing with the ones that don't. Interesting.
Get a second on that?
Did you call for it?
Okay, can I have a seconder then for that? Seconded by Bill. Calling the question that the Board of Education adopt policy 2014 restrictions on student use of personal internet connected devices. All in favor? Other reports, moving on to area 10 of our agenda. BCSTA, we said we would because the last meeting, we had just got back from AGM. We said we would do an AGM report out at this meeting. All of the NIB motions were passed. One related to emergency preparedness that we're now living through again. Extra support for rural and remote district staff. It went through as rural and remote district staff, not just northern staff. And support for a northern teacher bursary similar to the Northern Alberta Development one went through as well. Personally, I found the AI presentation was got me thinking. And the fellow that you really liked,
Raj,
Raj Mizzi.
Yeah.
Both those were quite good. I don't know how you found what you wanted to add. You weren't here, that's right. You were in Switzerland. Sorry.
I missed that one.
I really enjoyed listening to the three ladies there, the
The
MPs.
ministry ladies?
Yeah, the ministry lady, the minister and the,
Or the panel,
the
the
three.
election panel?
Yeah.
3 MLAs. or-
Yeah, 3 MLAs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like listening to them. The ministry ones, in my opinion, was kind of, they were avoiding a lot of questions, I thought.
If you go onto the portal, you can see the artificial intelligence presentation and the communications presentation is there. None of the other presentations or things from the workshops are there yet. So it was Bill, Ida, and Nicole and myself that went. We had the support of district staff there. Right, BCPC. Report, okay. Don't have anything for me. No, there isn't any correspondence, I don't think. So we're on to the capital bylaw. So before we get into all of that, do you want to speak to it, Angela?
So this is a little later in the approval than usually because we had to get that, the $200 we had the last, can be the whole, I believe it was, or was it at the board?
From the minute.
Yes. So we had to get that extra $200 for those two HVACs adjusted, so we needed a motion to do that. So this is the capital plan, which is effective April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. So we're looking to do the wrap, the exterior wall at Upper Halfway to get it to match the beautiful new gym. Finish the HVAC upgrades at Hudson Hope and do the controls upgrades to the HVAC system at Central and Robert Ogilvie. In addition to that, we will be purchasing 3 new buses. You can see that they don't have any costs on them, but Cindy is working on submitting numbers to them and they happy with what we said.
Thomas?
Just a random question. How many wheelchair accessible buses do we actually have?
That was going to be my question. You beat me.
I think we have, we have this for great. Well, we can, as needs arise, we can outfit the buses with the wheelchair lifts that exist. So we currently have 3, and I believe we use 2 of them for wheelchair.
Okay, I wasn't here, but in the minutes, it said that the HVAC for Robert Ogilvie and Nicole Central was $282,000.
Yeah, actually, yes. So
That's
we
what the minute
received-
said now, and
And that's what the minute said. Thank you for the reminder, sorry. So what they had first given us was 280 that he had documented, and then they had made a mistake and it was actually 200.
but the 200 is gonna cover it.
No, part of it will come out of EFG for next year.
You know, I had this similar question
Yeah.
to Thomas about wheelchair, given buses going out and practicing evacuations and things, because if you've got a student in a wheelchair, you've got to make sure that a bus with a wheelchair,
Is out there, and usually in the rural schools, it's the same bus drivers that are supporting the evacuation. So those buses should already be equipped with the wheelchair lifts.
All these questions are why we practicing and doing the tabletop, because there may be other questions that are unanswered, and that's.
well, I was thinking even of the fact that when Hudson Hope evacuated, we left buses down there to help evacuate seniors. While chances, if you're supporting a community evacuating, that you have a senior in a wheelchair might be quite high. So that was where my head had gone to. Right.
Thank you for that, Rama.
But once, $100, it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, no, that's a good catch. That's a big catch. All right. So, could I please have a mover and seconder that in accordance with section 68(4) of the School Act, all three readings of the capital bylaw number 2024-25 CPSD 60-02 be given at this meeting. Moved by Thomas, seconded by Madeline. Calling the question, all in favor? Before we do the other okay. So this will be the first reading of the capital bylaw number 2024-2025 CPSD 60-02 capital plan 2024-25. First reading will be in full form. Whereas in accordance with section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 60, Peace River North, hereinafter called Board, has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, hereinafter called the Minister, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved a capital plan with modifications. Now, therefore, in accordance with section 143 of the School Act, the Board has prepared this capital bylaw and agrees to do the following. Authorize the Secretary Treasurer to execute a capital project funding agreement related to the capital projects contemplated by the capital plan or the capital plan with modifications. Upon ministerial approval to proceed, commence the capital projects and proceed diligently and use its best efforts to complete each capital project substantially as directed by the Minister. Observe and comply with any order, regulation, or policy of the Minister as may be applicable to the Board or the capital projects, and maintain proper books of account and other information and documents with respect to the affairs of the capital projects as may be prescribed by the Minister. Now, therefore, the Board enacts as follows: the capital bylaw of the Board for 2024-25 capital plan as approved by the Minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary, Treasurer, and Superintendent dated May 10th, 2024 is hereby adopted. This capital bylaw may be cited as School District 60, Peace River North, capital bylaw number 2024-25, CPSD 60-02. I please have a mover and seconder for that first reading. Moved by Bill, seconded Thomas. Calling the question. Right. I now need a motion. Please. The second and third readings can be done in short form. Moved by Bill, seconded by David. Following the question. All in favor? Moving on then to the second reading of the capital plan number 2024-2025, CPSD 60-02, that the capital bylaw of the board, as approved by the minister, to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter of May 10th, 24, is hereby adopted. And it moved by Thomas, seconded by Madeline. Calling the question. All in favor? Moving on to the third reading of the capital bylaw number 2024-2025, CPSD 60-02, that this capital plan, as approved by the minister for the project specified in a letter addressed to the Secretary Treasurer and Superintendent, dated May 10th, 2024, is adopted. And that's a good reading. By Bill, moved by Bill, seconded by Madeline. Calling the question. All in favor?
Could have been here for a while.
All right, we're back to Angela.
Sorry. For a second there, I thought you were both Andy.
I don't want to speak.
You want us to ask as we go, or do you want us to? hold our horses?
I'm happy if you ask as we go. There.
Looks like it's working.
Okay. Welcome to the preliminary annual budget presentation for 24-25. This won't be the finalized presentation. We'll do the final reading in June at the final board meeting, but that just gives us the opportunity to have a deep dive into the numbers and just ask, from what you've seen today, ask any questions. Once questions that they arise over the next enough time. So, everyone's ready? Here we go. This is just the agenda of what we'll be seeing. I'm not going to go over it now because it will all come to light as we go through it. The ministry operating grant funds. So the FTE that we have shows an increase of 10.53 school age enrollment. This enrollment is a combination of the brick and mortar schools as well as distance education. Adult enrollment is difficult to predict. So we did a slight increase of 2.375 FTE for the 2024-25 year. The other category is made up of homeschooling and course challenges and is a minimal consideration when it comes to funding. So the overall increase from our 2024 amended budget to 2025, I apologize, that's the same number showing there, is 12.905 FTE. So this slide represents the base Ministry of Education and Childcare enrollment funding. While enrollment drives the majority of our funding, there are other items that come into play. Up here, you can see the salary differential, which.
Are you able to slide it over so you're not scrolling?
So it shows it.
Sure. I mean, I know I have a paper copy in front of me, but.
I've got a digital copy.
Okay.
I think everybody's got it.
I think David's the only one who does it. If you want to watch it along.
That's fine, Angela. Don't spend too much time on the technical difficulty.
Yeah, I don't know why it's been doing this lately though.
I could help if you'd like me to.
It might just be for that table, I think.
No, it's not. How are your IT skills? Minimal.
It's all about keeping it up.
I wonder if we do it the manual way and just shift the camera.
I don't even know if it's gonna catch the numbers. I think that's also off. It's not actually, just like this side of the screen is cut off. I don't think it has to do with
Yeah, you're right, both sides are cut.
It's not your Zoom.
it's a project, might be the, yeah. I think it's actually in the screen.
And the next side is different, and it's gonna cut something else off.
Wait.
Shoot a challenge to Thomas.
I think we just move that around a little better, because you can see on the left-hand side. Yes, I get the
Oh man, it can do that.
Yeah, I got this over to the left.
Yeah.
I won't move the table.
No
No picture.
Here's a picture.
Yeah, no, sorry, there we go.
We're only gonna pick up.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
really
it's
not
hard
help
to
it.
get
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's not that.
Who says Stephen doesn't go the extra mile?
There you go. Well, the extra 4 feet anyway. I think it's the settings for the
So-
resolution or screen on the
I think I'm
computer.
gonna try if I cut off the airtime, then I do.
Yeah.
Oh, how did you do that?
I changed the aspect ratio.
Thank you.
Take a bow.
Good job, Morgan. Good. Perfect.
Okay, so, the enrollment base fees are at the top, so that's what we've submitted for, enrollment for our distance ed and for our brick and mortar schools, our special education, funding, ELL funding, Indigenous education funding, and then our adult education funding. But what, in addition to the enrollment base comes to us is the salary differential, which provides additional funding to school districts with higher than average teacher salaries. The unique geographic factors, which is based on several considerations such as remoteness of our schools, distance from the board office, northern climate, and there's a few other items as well in there, but it's quite a long list. The BC Education Plan provides $9 per FTE based on the previous September's FTE enrollments. The Equity Opportunities Supplement is funding to support additional services to students that are in care or are waiting diagnoses or have other adversities to consider.
So that word should be supplement, not settlement.
Yes, it should be.
Well, fortunately, you're going to see this presentation again in June, so I'll change it for then. Supplement. And then new this year is the Indigenous Education Council. There's funding provided to all school districts in the province. We'll be getting 82,681 for our district. And then there's 2 additional funding windows for the February funding window covers distance education as well as an opportunity for special needs funding for special education. And then the May window has for distance education.
What does the Indigenous Education Council funding go towards? Is it towards one representative on the council? Is it?
No, it's
I was just in
Yes, Stephen.
Vancouver, talking about this. So as you know, they haven't finalized all of the IEC terms of reference. What they're telling us though, is that it can be used to support some of the administrative costs. Indigenous Education Council, professional development around training people. This is how it's supposed to function, your meetings, your votes and all that kind of stuff, as well as some of the supply issues related to running the IEC food specifically. And those are the 3 areas they've talked about right now.
Well, they left it broad and not.
Yeah,
This is what you need to do.
they have for now, because it'll really vary in when people move across the province.
yeah, because different districts are at different places with their Indigenous education councils. We have a pretty robust one here, so we're happy with the opportunity.
So just 2 quick questions. The BC Education Plan, if it's by student, shouldn't it be higher than the year before? Or did we have the amended? I mean, it's not a lot, not a big difference, but if it's per student and we have projected more students, shouldn't it be higher?
It's based on so it would be based on September's count. So I'll get back to you with that answer. These are straight out of the funding. So I'll get back to you on what the variance is about.
And the difference, are we talking about, I mean, this is just plus or minus. Obviously, we're getting the difference if our budget is higher than it was in the amended 20.
Why is that a negative?
Why is it a negative? That's the only question I have.
Just remove True North Line. Why is that a negative?
Should be a positive.
Okay.
I was pretty sure about that, but I'm not, well, better ask. I'm walking out.
Nope.
Keep going.
The number was correct. You just,
Oh,
I
we
was
did it?
just gonna say, you're just keeping us on our toes.
Well, you're all paying attention. Thank you very much. I obviously switched my columns up, so I apologize. Okay, so. And then this just is a continuation of the. I have it right here. Thank you, David. So this is just, so that top line represents the amount from the previous page. So that's Ministry of Education and Childcare funding. Then we also, the 4 lines below that, the pay equity funding for graduated adults, student transportation and support staff benefits grant all comes from the Ministry of Education as well. Yes.
Surprises me that those didn't go up at all. Do you think with the cost of everything going up, I think transportation would have gone up at least a dime?
The student transportation fund hasn't gone up since twice.
Wow.
That's crazy.
We pay more, but we don't get more.
We paid a lot more than 2016. Like I thought we paid more than last year.
Those are the, in the funding table, they haven't seen it. Notice that there's no wage increases. There is wage increase, but there's no additional funding like there was in the previous year. We received the 1.3 million. for the 2023-24 because they hadn't updated the per student funding amount to reflect the increases to wages that we've seen over the past few years. So this year's incorporates the wage increase of 3% for 2024-25, as well as the previous year's 6.75%. MCFD is another school age therapy. We're getting that contract again for 24. International and out of province students, we've estimated 45 FTE for international students, which corresponds to around 60 international students that we'll get. Not everyone comes for the full year. Miscellaneous, we've projected 160,000, which is slightly higher than last year, but it aligns more with what we've seen in the past. Rentals and leases, we have some additional childcare. The amended budget didn't have all of the RO lease in there, so we have that updated. And then investment income, always one that's difficult to predict, because with the prediction that interest rates are going to be going down, that will also mean investment income rates will go down, but hopefully we'll be getting at least the actual for the amended. We thought that the interest rates were going to be dropping as well, even within the current year, but we didn't see that. So our investment income for 2023-24 is much higher than the 640 that we have.
The ones that are supposed to be blank, you leave them blank.
The ones that are blank are intentionally.
No, can you leave them blank? Instead of the blanks, yeah.
I can, yes.
When I draw it to them
Okay.
is like, because I look for negative numbers.
And I put something in there so that you don't think I forgot it.
So when I see negative numbers,
So I
when I
can,
see the lines, I look,
oh, you see the negative
Yeah.
attaching to.
Is that, it is actually negative, so I missed this sign, so it's minus or negative three.
Oh.
Should be negative.
So what we're seeing is, so that is intentionally, I could put a 0. It's just so that if I didn't put something, you might say, forget something. So, but we can figure that one out.
thank you.
So that's that one. So you can see that the Ministry of Education and Child Care makes up the majority of our revenue at 97.86%. International and Alberta tuition is 0.91%. And next would be the income statement of 0.72. So the Ministry of Education is our funder. That's who we are. That provides us the goods to keep operating. So this is operating expenses, but we've moved away from revenue to expenses. Oh, yeah. Good job. So the preliminary budget is showing 82,529,927 in expenses. What we do is a percentage of allocation of overall spending versus this one is showing it by function. So instruction is 79.54% of our total expenses, which is what shows alignment with our strategic plan and our goals to provide great education to students. So we have education at the forefront, but we also have to ensure we keep the district running by getting the students to school, as well as keeping the building safe. So, and providing great leadership. Our district administration.
Sit right here. Sit.
Any questions here? operating expenses now broken down by object. So we, in the budget documents, we have salaries and benefits and services. As there's a greater breakdown in the actual budget document. But you can see that the salaries and benefits are 87.14% and service and supplies are 12.86. This the salaries also include a 3% increase across the board. We're also put an estimate in for an increase to benefits this year as we're seeing increase in usage. The usage rate was slow coming out of COVID, but we're definitely kind of seeing it back to pre-COVID numbers. People are getting in there, they're using the benefits. But what we're also seeing is how our benefits work. We're seeing increases in dental and extended health costs due to inflation as opposed to just usage. So we're kind of getting a double hit there. So we've adjusted the benefits to cover that, and then we're seeing again what I projected for the utilities and fuel in the amended budget, which was done in January, February, kind of aligned with, you use the past to predict the future. But we didn't see those numbers materialize because we had such a mild winter. So this year I went back to a bit more of a conservative approach for fuel and utilities so that they align with more the previous year as opposed to what we thought they were going to show up to for this year. So
The only thing I would recommend against that, with this year we were in an El Nino effect. We're going into a La Nina effect this coming year, which is wet and cold. So it could be a really rough winter, according to meteorologists. Could be wrong,
very good.
but there is a high likelihood that we will have a rough winter. I'm not even quoting the Farmer's Almanac.
Leah, did you get that?
We're gonna hold Tom to that.
Thomas, amended.
Hey, if we have a light winter, I'm feeling good about that too.
You know, you win either way.
What I'm saying is it makes it so difficult. You think you plan for all the increases to the utilities and to the fuel, and you try to put the carbon tax in, and then it's a good news story when the costs don't materialize, but it's sometimes too late to make movement either. So I wish I. This is just a diagram of showing how important our represents much of our reliance that the district has on staff. And so we have put we have built capacity in the HR positions in our district. We have some newer position, and then with the next year's mat leave coming up, we'll have a very strong HR staff, as well as we've put in some additional funding for some new recruitment initiatives that will keep us at 87. Supplement. So. Okay, this is showing how we've balanced our budget for 2024-25, and again the amended is. Right. So we are budgeting. We're putting surplus towards the. We've included surplus items in our expenses. Those I'll be explaining. Well, actually, I'll explain them now. The surplus items are the continuation of our numeracy literacy initiatives, some succession planning to build capacity within our literacy and numeracy supports in the district. This time around, we still don't have the exempt staffing amount they were telling us we were getting, so that has to come out of surplus as well until we get the funding. Phase 3 learning support model funding, and just some minor capital out of the surplus as well. And then the total tangible capital assets that we will be purchasing next year are 935,000, which is going towards, I'll have to provide you with a breakdown. It's IT, can't believe I did. IT supplies, there's some custodial equipment that's being purchased. I'll have to get back to you if you're interested in that.
I have to imagine that that server upgrade is gonna be a pretty bad.
This is a list of our special purpose funds. I just highlighted the newer ones in black. The Student and Family Affordability Fund is back for 2024-25. Project Penny is funding that we received from the ministry for the upgrading of our copper wires. So the transition to VoIP, because the TELUS won't be supporting copper at some point in the future. And then the Work Experience Enhancement Fund is a new fund that we've received. We've received it now, but you haven't seen it yet, but it'll be spent. It's spent for 24-25. Everything else is items in.
We still have a lot of copper lines.
Really?
The majority is copper. I'm not sure how many sites we've transitioned. Yeah, there's been more coming this summer, but I think we're over 50%. Yeah, a lot of schools.
I hear you.
So here and the revenue and the expenses we're anticipating fully spending our AFG or our special purpose funds. And again, those have a very specific purpose. We can't just use them for anything. They're given to us by the ministry to be used with their direction. The budget bylaw statement. The preliminary annual budget bylaw comes in at 102,749,550. The operating expenses on Schedule 2 are 82,529,7. Tangible capital assets purchased are 935,000. 35,000. Special purpose funds, the total expenses in capital assets is 13,249,517,000. And the capital fund total expense is 6,035,125. Just a bit of a summary of what we put into make the budget, what items we've put in for this year. So an increase of 3% to all wages, some inflationary considerations, not where we're definitely feeling pinch points. Learning support model is allocated to schools. All of our teacher time for counselors, CERT, librarian, learning assistants, and ELL are in ratio. And the budget includes some large upgrades to technology, and then the surplus allocation that the district's support of university. I just want to say I realized I did put this together in a little bit of a rush because I had a bit of a technical issue on Friday, but it's no excuse to have a negative where it should have a positive, so I apologize.
It all made sense. Thank you for putting it together.
Any other questions?
Very well.
So Angela, as far as the deep dive goes,
Yes.
do you have an idea of when you would like to do that so that we can look at putting?
I actually. Because this committee of the whole, we have policy, so I didn't know if we wanted to piggyback it in there, but really it's anytime. I could send out some dates. And,
Yeah, I wasn't sure you were talking about doing it at committee of the whole. That's why I thought I'd put it out there now. If the desire was committee of the whole, then.
well, we have policy committee at that one, but we should, because then we could group it together with the auditor as well, kind of giving us the prelim for the upcoming audit, if we do them at the same time. So shall I get back to you in the next couple of days?
Yes, please.
Dates?
Yeah.
That works?
Right. Actually, we need to have someone make a motion that the board adopt the first reading of the annual budget bylaw 2024-2025. Moved by David, seconded by Thomas. Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried. So. I didn't practice the number. All right. Bylaw of the Board of Education, School District number 60, Peace River North, called the board to adopt the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2024-2025 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act, RSBC 1996, C412, as amended from time to time, called the Act. The board has complied with the provisions of the Act, ministerial orders, and Ministry of Education on child care policies respecting the annual budget adopted by this bylaw. The bylaw may be cited as the school district number 60, Peace River North, annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2024-2025. The attached statement 2 showing the estimated revenue expense for the 2024-2025 fiscal year and the total budget bylaw amount of $102,749 for the 2024-2025 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act. Statement 2, 4, and schedules 2 to 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board.
Yes.
So could I please get a motion that the second reading be done in short form? Moved by Madeline, seconded by Bill. Calling the question, all in favor? So this is a bylaw of the board, School District 60, Peace River North. It's our annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2024-2025. We've complied with the provisions of the Act, the ministry, everybody we're supposed to in developing the budget. The bylaw is the annual budget bylaw for 2024-25. Our attached statement 2 showing the estimated revenue and expenses. Statement 2, 4, and schedules 2 are adopted as the annual budget of the board. I need a mover and seconder to adopt that. Moved by Bill, seconded by David. Any question? Unfinished business, strategic planning. There's been a little bit of back and forth and we didn't get the, some of the things in order to have everything ready to bring forward the strategic plan to the public portion of the meeting. Today, we will look forward to doing that in June and we'll take a look at some things in our in-camera meeting related to strategic planning. I'm not aware of any other new business. So, and Michelle sent her regrets tonight. We don't have anybody here from CUPE or DPAC. So it's time for questions from the press and public related to agenda items. And we have somebody from the press here tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
I don't have any at the moment.
Okay, all right,
Thank you, though.
that's fine. Okay, could I please get a motion to suspend the regular meeting and move into camera? Moved by Bill, seconded by Thomas. All in favor? Could I please have a motion to bring forward for implementations the motions that were made in the in-camera portion of our meeting? Moved by David, seconded by Thomas. All in favor? Thank you. Now a motion for adjournment, please. Moved by Bill, seconded by Madeline. Calling the question. All in favor? We are adjourned at 8:19.